Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are down here in these studios, these awesome studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Michaud. Hey, you guys have been following along. You know, last week we had on Mr. Mike Hancock, Chief of the Walls Volunteer Fire Department, been around for a long time, icon of Walls, Mississippi. Well, I'm continuing on that thread. We are highlighting some of the different cities and what are some of the challenges they face and some of the differences from one city to the next and how the fire departments run. And so this week we are honored to have Mr. Danny Scallions, the Fire Chief of Southaven, Mississippi. It's one of the largest cities in the state of Mississippi. I am privileged to say that I once worked there. We're going to talk about that and how myself and Chief Scallions, man, we have this long road, this long history together. It's a lot of fun. So I know you guys want to stick around. You want to hear what all we have to talk about, but guess what? You know what we have to do right here. We got to pay the bills, y'all. That's how this thing works. So I want to send this out real fast to our sponsors, and then we will be right back. All right, everybody, I want to take a quick second and thank all of my sponsors out there. Thank you guys so much for doing what you do for me. SRP Studios, the Rhythm Section Podcast, Hardwick Heating, Cooling, and Air Quality, Hodge Homes with Mr. Brad Hodge, Adair Honey Farms, Miss Hippie Eats, Phones Are Us, Tennessee First Responders Foundation, the Hope Center of Northwest Mississippi, and Stacy Dodd Intervention. Thank you guys. I couldn't do this without you. Please continue to support the podcast. Welcome back, folks. Here we are. We are with Chief of Southaven, Mississippi, Mr. Danny Scallions. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to the studio. How do you like it?
It's nice.
It's very bright up in here.
Yeah, it is.
I can't take any credit. All I do is come in here and yap on this thing. That's what I do. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your day.
Sure.
I ordered some weather to come in. It's extra cold, just the way you like it.
It's a cold one.
It's cold outside. So you brave those elements. You're in here. And I'm a fair weather fireman, guys. Back in my day, 20 degrees, getting wet. And then after the fire's out, you're just cold, man.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be 95 either. So we have a lot of history here, Chief Scallions. I want to jump into first. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? Tell me something about your family, because there is a really cool aspect, too, that I know that we're going to hit on here in a minute.
Absolutely. So actually born in Memphis and raised mostly in Memphis. Moved down to Mississippi about the time I hit high school. But raised in Memphis and went to school there in Memphis City Schools, went to junior high at Highway Baptist in Southaven, and then as we moved down here, went to Southaven High, graduated in 87.
Oh, you graduated from Southaven High School. How did I not know that?
Yeah.
You're just a few years ahead of me on that then, because I graduated from Horn Lake in 1992. Should have been 91. I had 2 senior years. You guys could judge me if you want to. I don't even care. I don't even care. All right, so when you graduate high school, what are you thinking you're going to do?
I was probably like most high school graduates and wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just after I graduated, I did take some classes at a community college, just, travel industry, thinking, getting my foot in that door where I would be able to get out and just travel a lot. That would, make it easy.
You say travel industry, you mean like booking people's travel or you traveling?
Well, it would, the class, the class was for that, working for airlines. It kind of exposed you to a lot of different aspects in the travel industry. And
interesting.
Never really grabbed me.
Yeah.
Never even worked in that field.
Couldn't picture you doing that.
I can't either.
Well, just
at this
because I
point,
know
especially.
who you are. Yeah, well, obviously at this point. So whenever you did that, you were thinking you were going to do that. Did you have anybody in your family that was fire or EMS or anything? Because clearly some point you take a shift.
Well, I did. I had an uncle by marriage that was in Memphis Fire. He died when I was young, went on a call. He was a driver, went on a call, and the next day he passed away with a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So I never really, got to know him, but, knew that there was that connection and met him. And, he would come by the house sometimes when he was on duty in his car. But one of those things that, I never really thought about the fire service. And then, as I was still, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, my dad had the paper that he read every morning and said, hey, Memphis Fire Department's hiring. You ever thought about that? So
how old were you at that time?
I was probably 18, 19, probably 19.
Okay, so young guy, really trying to figure it out in college. Interesting point here, guys, and this is where I was saying it's going to be kind of an interesting twist here, is you have a twin brother.
I do.
Donnie. So you have Danny, you have Donnie. I remember one time, man, I think I may have been at a store. And I saw your brother from a distance. Of course, obviously, I think it's you. It's the identical brother. I'm like, and I got closer and said, nope, you're not Danny. He goes, that's my brother. I'm like, oh, because at that point, I didn't know that you had a twin brother.
Yeah.
Initially. Of course, it's not, I don't guess you lead a lot of conversations like, hey, my name's Danny. I got a twin, by the way. Yeah, people don't do that, right?
We get that often. So I'll have people come up to me and I can tell right away they think I'm Donnie. Or I think, I know this person, I guess, but I can't remember them. And then, I find out later they think that I'm my brother. Yeah.
So when your dad's mentioning to you, hey, look, what do you think about firefighting? Does he say the same thing to your brother?
No, he was already he was working at FedEx and had a pretty good direction, and he realized that I wasn't doing something that I wanted to do, I think. So he encouraged that and thought it'd be good. And, like I said, I never really thought about it, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea of it.
Sure.
So
it's fascinating though, because I say a lot, man, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know. Ain't like I know thousands of twins. I've known some twins, but a lot of them that I've known do tend to have similar interest. So it is kind of interesting that that your brother didn't want to go into firefighting, or that you didn't follow him to FedEx either way.
Right. Well, I will say you're right on track with that. We lived, I don't want to get too far ahead, but we lived, after we moved out, we rented a house in Horn Lake. And as my mind was turning about, hey, Memphis Fire Department, and you worked at Memphis, so you know the length of time it takes from the time you put in an application.
Put it in and just forget about it, because who knows when it'll happen.
So during that period of whenever it's going to happen, I thought, well, Horn Lake has a volunteer department. I'll go and see what I can learn about being a firefighter. Cool. And I started volunteering there probably around 1990.
Was Linville still there? Chief Linville?
This was before Linville.
So this is before Linville. So now we know it was a while back there.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, 1990.
Larry Newton was the chief.
Okay, yes. I lived in Horn Lake. Okay. So then, obviously, I went to Horn Lake High School, so I just couldn't remember who the chief was back then. I wasn't into firefighting either. Ironically enough, the subdivision I lived in was at that time Walls, Twin Lakes. Okay. And it's been annexed since. But at that time, it was still Walls, and so we had the volunteer fire department, and just relating. That's why Chief Hancock came on right before this one. Walls had a big impact in my life eventually. Absolutely. And then at some point, Southaven come into this thing, and we'll talk about that here shortly. So then when you decide to start volunteering, let's do the thing that I love to talk about to all firemen when they are thinking about a career path with this. Tell me about your first call.
Wow, that's taken it back quite a few years, but the first actual call as a volunteer that I went on was probably a car fire. And, today when a fireman goes on a car fire, it's not that exciting, but back then it grabbed me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first time you make I think even today, if a person's brand new and they make that car fire, their heart rate's probably 1,000 to nothing. Yeah, so so then you knew right then, is kind of where I'm going with this, that this was something you were very interested in.
I did. I mean, there was never a point where I thought, this isn't what I want to do, or this isn't something that interests me. But the more I was exposed to, the more I reassured myself that, this is definitely what I want to do.
Yeah, so when you were working with Horn Lake, how long was it that you worked there as a volunteer?
So I worked there from 90 till, as a volunteer, I started in 90, and then in 91, probably October of 91, they had an opening to fill. Back then, they had a combination of departments. So it was volunteer, and they had paid department Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And they had a position come open for their paid firefighter. I applied for that and got it. So went paid with Horn Lake in probably October of 91.
I guess they had already sent you down to Jackson to get your Fire 1 and 2, stuff like that?
Well, when I was a volunteer, I did the volunteer certification. Okay. And then after I got hired and started with them in October of 91, January of 92, I went down to the academy and got the official 1001.
Back then it was like 6 weeks, I believe, right?
It was.
Yeah. And then now I think it's maybe 8 or
7.
Is it 7? Okay,
Yeah,
I knew it
they've
had grown.
adjusted it a few times over the years.
Some hazmat classes are in there.
I think it was 8, but they took A&O out of it, and that's a prerequisite now for your 1001.
Okay, so and the reason why I'm even bringing all that up is because things do evolve and change, and I know that a lot of folks from this area in particular watch my show, and I've had a lot of young people reach out to me about the fire service stuff because I've had different guests come on. They talk about fire service and that. Of course, if you are in the DeSoto County area and you're watching this, maybe you're interested in this type of career path, and you don't have to be 18. You can be a little bit older than that. You don't want to be 45, let me tell you. This is a young man's game when you get started out anyways. So then you clearly find that you have a passion and a love for Horn Lake. And had you already tried out for Memphis, or did you ever go try out for Memphis?
No, I did. Actually, so I tried out for Memphis probably before I actually went paid with Horn Lake. And you remember back then, it's entirely different than the environment today. So they run a little ad in the paper, and Mid-South Coliseum was...
It's like a cattle call.
It was full of people. And that was just the orientation, and then they scheduled your physical, and then your physical agility, and then your physical. So I actually went to that. I went and did the physical agility test, passed that, and then the long wait.
Yeah, the long wait. What year was that? Do you remember?
Well, that started in 91.
Okay.
And then got on, volunteer with Horn Lake, got on paid with Horn Lake, went down to the academy, got certified, and then probably the spring of 92, just a couple of months after coming back from the State Fire Academy, I got the call from Memphis, hey, come do your physical. And, usually that is, hey, you pass this, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
So went and did the physical. Back then, Memphis required you had to pass a minimum test for your vision as far as width, and then without
glasses or corrections.
Yep. So I'm wearing contacts. So if I didn't have these in, I'd be, who is that sitting in front of me?
I would look a lot better.
So I failed that, and then went back, and I was like, well, I'm in the fire service, but I'm from Memphis. I was intrigued by the history of a long-term fire department.
I never knew this part about what obviously we've known each other for over 20 years, but I guess I never knew that you went down the road of getting on Memphis.
Yeah.
So it was your sight. And it's funny because, and I say funny, but it's interesting that your sight, your hearing and all that, they were very strict on back in the day.
Absolutely.
Not as much now.
Nope.
And I know a lot of folks that are in there that are, I don't know how they see anything, to be honest with you.
Well, you think about it, back then you got a Mid-South Coliseum's full of people, and they're looking to hire probably 30.
They're cherry picking.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when I tried out was in 1999, same thing. And it took me over 3 years to get hired. In fact, it took over 3 years and me actually getting my paramedic license before I ever got called.
The golden ticket.
Man, that is the golden ticket, by the way. For you kids out there that are thinking about fire service, you're a young person, look, let me tell you something. Get your paramedic license. You write your ticket to anywhere you want to go as a firefighter. Once they hire, that department is looking for you if you have a good record anyways. So then you end up realizing, all right, so the site thing's going to be an issue. So you stay with Horn Lake. How long do you stay with Horn Lake?
I stayed with Horn Lake for another month or so, and then the position opened up. They advertised in Southaven, and like I said, back
in Southaven used to be volunteer, or at least the EMS was volunteered.
Well, both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
And that's long before my time. When I came on at Southaven, I started in Southaven June of 92. So there was just a short window there that I was paid with Horn Lake. But after the Memphis failed the physical, not too long after that, opened position posted for Southaven, and I thought, well, I'm Monday through Friday 8 to 5 as a firefighter in Horn Lake, and at that point, Southaven had progressed a lot more than some of the surrounding departments. So I applied for Southaven and got on in June 22nd of 92.
How about that? Now, you would know this before I would. Was Babbitt's DeSoto there yet in 92?
It was. It was a fraction of what it is.
I was going to say it had to have been brand new, like maybe a 5-bedroom ER or something.
I think it was 4 or 5 curtains that they had in there for the ER.
I remember something about that. I couldn't remember when the year was that it was built, but I knew it was just a little bitty, just nothing to it, ER room, and for the ambulance services in our area, of course, Walls at that time was our guy. But, man, if you had to go somewhere serious, it was always the med. You had the med or Methodist University, which isn't different today, but there was no quick service if you needed something and it was somewhat acute. You had a long haul for you. You had a long haul. So then in 92, when you transition over to Southaven, do you have a big scope dream at that point?
As far as how far I wanted to
Where
go.
you wanted to go,
service,
if you saw this as being like a 25, 35-year career?
Oh, yeah. This was no doubt. My plan was to, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter to the day I retire.
Yeah.
And I had no desire, especially after I got on at Southaven, I had no desire to leave Southaven to go anywhere else.
So you knew that you were feeling this is where I'm going to be locked into.
Yep. I will retire Southaven fireman.
And what was the requirements at that point to be hired by Southaven? I'm assuming Fire 1 and 2, and then you were...
At that point, the position that they were advertising was for a certified, so you have 1001, 1 and 2.
Okay. And at this point, now we're going to jump forward for just a second, but we're going to come back. Do you have to have your paramedic after being hired by Southaven? Are y'all paramedic requirement now?
No.
Okay.
EMT. You have to have your EMT. We give you a year after we offer you the class to get your EMT, but paramedic is optional at this point. So.
Okay, because so many departments around us, and honestly, I couldn't keep up. You can't keep up. It's just constantly changing unless you work there or you're constant communication with somebody.
Yep.
So then when do you get your EMT basic? Because what you just said has been standard for a long time as well. I think at one time when you got on the paid departments, it was just EMR at least at a minimum, and then eventually it progressed to you need to have at least your EMT basic.
Yep. So when I got on at Southaven, actually in 92, the fire department and the EMS were two separate departments, had two different department heads. And, the ambulance service was basic, maybe intermediate at that time, and wasn't even a paramedic service.
Right.
So in about 94, the two departments merged, and, it was.
I didn't realize it was 94. That's pretty early then.
It was. Yeah.
I was expecting you to say like 1999, 2000.
Oh, no. We were going paramedic ambulance service well before then. And it was a challenge. I mean, we had to get paramedic or EMT intermediates certified as a paramedic before they could go paramedic service. So
yeah,
it was a transition.
Sure it is. And then you got to have the right candidates. You got to have people that want to be trained and then can be trained, because just because you want to don't mean you can get all those certifications. Let's face it, paramedic is actually hard. People would say, Camp, you're a paramedic. That can't be true. I get it. I actually loved it, which is why it became easy to me, because otherwise if it was just academic in general, probably wouldn't have been very good at it. But I loved being a paramedic. So you get your EMT basic. Who gave you that? I'm just curious.
Let's see. I went through Northwest, and that, like I said, it wasn't even required for firefighters back in those years, but definitely saw the need. I mean, the majority, even back then, the majority of the calls you go on are EMS.
70-80%. Yeah.
Exactly where we're at today. So, definitely thought that would be beneficial. And it was, me and several other firefighters went through the basic class at the same time.
Do you remember who your instructor was?
Renee Tabor.
I was wondering if it was Renee, because I was leading to this. That's who also taught me my EMT
awesome.
basic.
You got more connections than I realized.
I know. That's why I was waiting to hear to see. So I got my EMT basic from the Southaven campus at that time.
Yep.
And Renee and Sharon Hammonds. Those were my two teachers.
What year was that?
1999.
Okay, so she did it for quite a while.
Yeah, so I was a little bit behind you. You were a little bit out in front of me, but I hadn't been in the military. So then when I got out, then I started down this path, and I was on at Walls and everything. So in 99, I get my EMT basic, and I'm grinding. I'm trying to get on somewhere, and I start working for DeSoto County paid EMS. Opportunity presents itself, the possibility of going to Southaven. I had just got into paramedic school. Guess what, folks? Guess who was in my paramedic class? You know, you take a guess? Is that you? In the back. Yes. That's right. Chief Scallions. There's nobody there. Dan, don't worry about that. So Chief Scallions and I start out in paramedic school down at Senatobia, Mississippi, Northwest. And Miss Brenda Hood was our teacher. And
2000.
This was whenever... and this was still, I think we were the last class that had the 1-year program.
We were.
And after that, it went to a 2-year program.
That's one thing. I mean, I thought about going to paramedic school for years. And then when I knew, okay, this after this year, it's going to take 2 years to get your paramedic. So if I'm going to do it, now would be the best time to do it. And
that's where I was going to go next, is what was the deciding factor? Because at this point, you'd been on for a minute. What was your rank? I mean, you'd been on since the early 90s.
I was a lieutenant when I went through paramedic.
That's right. Yeah. I was thinking you were. You had been you were a driver at one point, right? Before that. So then you had gotten your lieutenant, and you just did it because you wanted to, not because you needed to.
Like I said, at that point, paramedic service was there for Southaven, and 75-80% of the calls that we went on were EMS. I had other firefighters or lieutenants that had gone through paramedic program, and I could see, them making a bigger difference than I was able to do because of the higher level of education and certification. So I definitely thought it'd be good, and I was, interested in it as well. Just like you said, you learn a lot in paramedic program, and I always thought, even if you didn't work in EMS, that's a class that anyone can go take and really get a lot out of.
It's such a big part of the fire service anyways. For me personally, whenever I got into fire service, I never thought I wouldn't want my paramedic. So like I know some folks, they get to this point and they're like, oh, I have to go get my paramedic. Well, I mean, that's going to make the class really hard for him, I'm going to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
But what I looked at was so many calls we made had maybe even a full fire element to it, but then there would be a sidebar of EMS, whether somebody had smoke inhalation or a fireman gets hurt on the scene, you name all the different scenarios. I didn't want to be a guy that felt like I was pigeonholed, like I had done all I could do and I can't do anything more. My true, honest thought and vision was I wanted to be the best trained at as many things as I could so that if something took place, I felt prepared to be able to respond to that appropriately, whatever that was, which is also, and we'll talk a little bit probably about it if you guys have special rescue training stuff that y'all do at Southaven, which I'm sure most departments do. That's what led me going down that road later in my career, was because even once I got my fire stuff and all my certifications and I felt strong there, and I was obviously a paramedic and I was strong there, I'm like, I want to be able to respond to anything that takes place. So then I got into the special rescue stuff. So then when we're in school, I remember flashes of the school itself. I always brought my lunch. Do you remember that?
I do remember
And you
that.
guys, I would go to lunch with y'all still.
Yep.
We would go sit at a Chinese restaurant at a buffet, and I'm breaking out my lunch box.
I remember that.
Eating with you guys because we were a family. I mean, to a point, when you're going through that kind of grind in paramedic school, I mean, dude, you're bouncing questions off of each other. You really kind of got to stick together on it because it's tough. And I remember you being on Southaven, and I talked to you about it. I'm like, man, I kind of think maybe I'd like to try to get on Southaven at some point. And I think that eventually you're probably the one that told me Southaven was hiring whenever I eventually would have put a application in and got hired by them. I'll bring all that up because I want to ask you about a question, see if you remember this moment. This is kind of a cool moment. We were eating at this said Chinese buffet down in Senatobia, Mississippi, and we were leaving. Do you remember the injury with the little old lady in a car?
I don't.
Okay. See, there's these moments. I can't even explain this. If you've not done this job, it doesn't make sense to you. There will be a call that somebody will come up and tell me about that I was on. No memory whatsoever. And then there'll be something else that was really obscure that I remember all the details to.
Yep.
Nobody else would remember. We were leaving lunch and we were about to head back to class. And I don't even remember how this old lady had done this to her ankle. I don't know if she bumped something or she just slammed the brakes on, but she had snapped her ankle.
Oh, wow.
And the bone was sticking out and it was bleeding. And you and I wrapped her up. And that other tall guy that was with us, that was the x-ray tech that made like a 99 in the class. You remember that guy? I don't know his name.
Yep.
And it was us three. And we got back from from lunch and we were like, Miss Brenda, we were actually using our skills, man. We were doing stuff, bro. So it's funny. You don't even remember that.
I know, it is.
I so remember that moment anyways. All right. So then, after paramedic school, I do get on Southaven. I worked with you guys for a short stint, not quite a year, and Memphis came calling. And of course, back in those days, and we're talking early 2000s, late 1990s, I mean, most people in the area, I'm not going to say everybody, but most people looked at Memphis as kind of like the pinnacle because it paid the most. I mean, it paid a lot more over what other cities. Now that's not the case so much, by the way. And we can talk some of the pay scale that people could start out at here in a little bit. But it's just that's where a lot of folks went to. And I wanted to get the action. I was young. I was in my 20s. You want to see everything that you can. And trust me, Memphis had all of that in spades. And so I go up there. But you and I, we stayed in contact. And something kind of brought us back together as friends. Not that we were not friends, but like communications. And do you know where I'm going next with this?
I don't.
All right. So what is it you love to do that you're way better than I am?
Now I know where you're going.
Yes.
All right. So I don't remember what year it was, but I ran into you at the Germantown Half Marathon.
Yes, I did.
So I remember the race specifically that I was like, hey, I didn't realize you were a runner. And then we reconnected with that. That's
funny because all through school, that wasn't even something I did at that time anyways. It was a few years later I started getting into running. And you're right. We run into each other at the Germantown Half and come to find out, Chief Scallions is not just a runner. Chief Scallions is a runner, dog. Like, I run, but I'm like Fat Man Weekend Warrior runner, where I'm like trying to cross that finish line in a marathon, like at 4.5 hours and 5 hours. This man here blazing, and got faster and faster and faster. And we're going to talk a little bit here in just 2 seconds about how running plays into being not just a healthy aspect of life, but a leadership aspect of life, because I do know how this correlates. So when is it that you realize you have a gift for this running? Because you are a really good runner.
Well, when I went through the academy back in '92, they required you to run a mile and a half in, I think it was at that point, 14 minutes.
I think that's right, yeah.
So obviously I did that. I didn't have any issues with that. And for years I thought, and this is one thing that I remember they instilled in me in the basic firefighter class is, hey, maintain your physical ability throughout your career for obvious reasons. So I did that mile and a half. That's what they required me to do. So I focused on that, make sure I could meet the minimum requirement or better as a entry-level firefighter throughout my career, and concentrated on that for years, and then started getting into doing some 5Ks, just over 3 miles, and doing those races. It just grabbed me, and then the 5K led me to wanting to do the 10K, and after doing a couple of 10Ks, my mind progressed wanting to do more and more. Almost like an addiction, it's like the more I do, the more I want to do. So started doing that, and then reading and trying to learn everything I can about running. I hear about the Boston Marathon and the percentage of global runners that actually run marathons, and what percentage of those will actually make it into Boston. And before I even ran my first half marathon, I thought, I want to go to Boston one day.
So you're already thinking that far down the road.
I was.
And that is a leadership quality. Visualizing something that is way beyond the scope of where you are now, or even what you've possibly started to do, but recognizing that as a possibility. I'm going to tell you this right now. That's a leadership quality that if you have somebody that can instill that in themselves, but also instill that in the people they're in charge of, man, you can accomplish untold measures of things. Because so often, I think it's a normal trait for most people to see the limitations before they see the possibilities. And as a motivational speaker myself, and then somebody that has done things that nobody thinks that I should be able to physically do, they look at that and they say, well, man, if this guy can do it, maybe I can. And then for me to infuse that in them, that is something that you can't get unless you're out there doing it yourself. Leadership through action is the right kind of leadership. Leadership through speech is a false narrative, in my opinion. You can always tell people the right things to do, but if they don't see you doing it,
right,
it's lost in concept. So for you, I think that at this point, you're also building characteristics that's going to play really well for you down the road as you grow in the ranks of Southaven.
I think so. I mean, I won't say running came easy, but when I was thinking, hey, I want to do Boston, and then when I ran into you at that was the first half marathon I ever run at that Germantown half. I remember after I got done, I was thinking, I ran that in just over an 8-minute pace. And in order to qualify for Boston, I've got to run twice as far, and I've got to run it about 30 seconds faster. So, that was like,
big challenge. That's a massive challenge.
But never discouraged me, and I thought, well, I'm going to sign up and do my first marathon. And
was St. Jude your first?
It was.
I was thinking
2014.
It was. Yeah.
2014, and, those statistics that you read about, most will never run, of the 2% of the global population, most will never see a sub 4-hour marathon of that 2% that runs marathons. So I thought, I want my first one to be sub 4. So that was my goal, was to train. And back then I had, you didn't have the same access to information then as you do now. And, I was just winging it and trying to put together a plan that worked. And, you talk about how running prepares you mentally. It taught me that you can't succeed without a plan. So, I'm developing a plan of getting me to that sub 4-hour marathon. And every weekend I would go do a long run, and I would run the course. And I mean, I made myself, I would start where their finish line starts. And this was, 6 months before the race. And I would follow the course. Like I'd have to study and see which direction the course was, because it's not marked back then. So I would park my truck and get an Uber to take me to the starting line and run back to my truck. And that might be, 20 miles towards the end of the training plan. So there was no stopping. I mean, if you stop, you still got to get to your truck.
Yeah. And hitchhiking in Memphis is ill-advised. I'm just saying, probably everywhere, but definitely in certain parts of certain cities. So, so then, look, what you're saying here then is also the engagement of being able to be self-disciplined, have structure to your goals, be able to set priorities, understand and visualize what the process is going to be. If you guys don't know, class is in session. Get your pen and paper, for crying out loud. Sit down and start taking some daggum notes. These are the things, though, that make an effective leader exceptional leader, because you have to be able to have these tools, these life tools, to be able to be successful for yourself, but then more so to instill that in other people to be successful. One of the things that I prided, we're going with that word. I'm from Mississippi. Y'all don't even care. Prided myself in is being able to help others see beyond the limitations that maybe they've seen for themselves or other people have put on them over the years. I am over my weight limit of what I should be to be running a marathon. In fact, I was humbled multiple times in my running career, Danny. I got to tell you, one of the first biggest humiliating, humbling moments was when I went to sign up for one of the races I was in. I can't even right now remember the marathon it was. They said, "Oh, you're in the Clydesdale division." And I said, "Look, that's a great thing if I'm a linebacker to call me a Clydesdale. But what you just said is I'm in the fat man division." So, I mean, those things, though, didn't discourage me. That actually, in a way, was fuel for motivation, because it's like, all right, well, I could see how other people would see me from the outside looking in. Well, for you, you didn't just say, well, I could just run a marathon, because you had already felt comfortable in running. You understand that the only way that we grow is to push yourself outside the comfort zone. Absolutely. So you were looking for a 4-hour, sub 4 on your first one. And then the next thought is, Boston. And by the way, guys, y'all should not have any misconceptions. Coach Camp's probably not going to make it to a Boston on a qualifier, maybe through sponsorships or something, but not on a qualifier, because how fast did you have to run to qualify for Boston?
So it's age-based, and then so they may have 30,000 runners at Boston. Of that 30,000, it may be 6 of them that are going by, hey, they're raising money for charity, and so that leaves, around 24,000 or so, depending on how many they allow for charities, that can qualify and get in. So they get 30,000 applicants of qualifiers, so they have to go with the fastest qualifiers. So it's kind of been a moving target. You have to run it in a certain period, but then you've got to beat those who have already
in your
met
age group.
Exactly. So not everyone that qualifies gets in, so the faster qualifiers get in. So at that time, the first time that I towed the line for a marathon, thinking, and this is for years of training, gotten with a coach and learning how to actually train and putting that perfect plan together, was Houston, and the weather was horrible for running a marathon. It was great weather. It was 70 degrees at the start, which doesn't sound bad, but if you're racing a marathon, that's way too hot.
It is.
90+% humidity, so bad day. And halfway through the marathon, I'm running pace, but it's going downhill. I still run my sub 4. I've never run anything but sub 4s. So
that's impressive.
That's
And how many have you ran now?
15.
Wow.
Yeah.
15 sub 4s. That's incredible.
So, but back then I had to run a 3:25 to qualify, 3 hours and 25-minute marathon. I ran a 3:20, not at Houston, but later that year I ran a 3:22 up in Geneva, Illinois, and thought, I'm in.
You did it.
Yep. Hey, looking at history, 3-minute cushion is plenty.
Spike the football.
Exactly. You have to wait 6 months to get your email, whether it's acceptance or regrettable, sorry. But, didn't make it. Missed it by less than 30 seconds. So,
I knew this story because I remember you posting about it and then us communicating a little bit on text. And I wanted you to tell that because I think this too plays into leadership. I think this too plays into mental strength, having the right kind of mindset, staying positive, ultimately adjusting to life, having your goals and realizing the path to your goal may have to change multiple times, but the goal could stay the same. Your goal was staying the same. Your goal was to make the Boston Marathon, right? If you guys are wondering why is this, if you just now tuned in, you're driving down the road, you're paying attention to nothing, you're like, well, let's just see what Camp's doing. And you put it on here and you're like, why is the Southaven Chief of the fire department, sitting up here talking about running, because this all plays into being a firefighter. This plays into being a chief. This plays into being a strong-willed individual to be able to achieve things. So here it is. You've done your part. You've worked hard. You've sacrificed. You've dedicated. You visualized. You set forth on a path and you executed, and you're told no.
Yep.
Bro, do you know how many times that right there just made him stronger because he didn't quit? I got news for you. Whenever you've put in the work, I'm not saying people always feel this way, but I would say I mostly feel this way. If I've done all the things I know I'm supposed to do, you do feel a little deserving at times. And whenever that moment, and it's happened to me different ways many times over, gets yanked from you, it's not about what just happened to you. And it ain't got to be fair. And it could be very discouraging and disheartening. It's what do you do next?
Exactly.
And that's what defines your character, my friend. So what does Danny Chiefin Scallions do after he says, I'm not in? Now what?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely discouraging, and that's probably understating how I was feeling after getting that email saying, sorry, regrettably, you did not make it in too, even though you had a qualifying time. And you mentioned, having a twin, Donnie, my twin, he and I ran, and, that's one thing, we pushed each other, and that helped. So, yeah. But you go through this period of, where it would be real easy to quit, but then your mind starts focusing on, all I got to do is 20 seconds faster, 26 seconds faster. So you start working that up in your mind, and we start, another plan of, to get into Boston, you have to run a qualifying marathon. So it's, hey, if you don't get in this year, you've got to run a qualifying time in the next year to qualify for the next year. So it's not like, hey, I didn't make it this month, I'm going to try it again next month. I mean, it takes a full year. So got right back on that horse and started training, and decided, hey, I'm going to run it faster. And, we go do that. That same scenario plays out a couple of years in a row, and it would be very easy to sit back and say, hey, I'm going to quit now. I gave it a good shot, but I didn't. I kept telling myself, I don't want to be laying on a deathbed thinking, hey, I almost did that. I didn't want to cheat myself out of that. Yeah. So we keep going. Year 2020, we get that letter, we get that email. It says, congratulations.
You did it.
We did it. You're in for the 2020 Boston Marathon.
You guys are about to love this. I know the story. Please.
You know the story. So that roller coaster ride goes way up, and then COVID hits. And guess what? Starts on that downhill.
No race.
Well, they started with, they sent out a notice, we're evaluating the situation, and eventually they postpone it to the fall. So, okay, well, we're going in the fall. And we already had plane tickets to go in April, and hotel reservations, and we're gonna move it to the fall. Okay, we readjust our plan. We'll go in the fall, and then it's okay. We're canceling the marathon, and your first thought is, okay, they'll reschedule, and we'll be able to go next year. No, and you got to start over. So that roller coaster took a huge dip, and in my mind, I wanted to go do Boston. I wanted to qualify. And I felt like at the same time, okay, I did qualify. That was my goal, but I didn't run it. So I couldn't sit with that. So we had to go back and start over and, do it again. We ran, so year before last, we went and did a race in Las Vegas. We both qualified. Donnie was a lot faster than me. He had a time that was about 11 minutes over his qualifying time. Mine was just over 5. And we were at the point now where 5 minutes is no guarantee. 5 minutes over what it takes to qualify is still no guarantee to get in. Yeah. So we ran a second qualifying race that same year, and I boosted my time to about 7.5 minutes. Then you wait on that the results. You apply, you wait on the results, and we made it in, and I had a minute and a half to spare, actually. So the persistence paid off. I think back, we ran Boston back in April of this year, and I always really think back, how hard that was to achieve and how long it took, and then how easy it would have been for me to say, hey, I put forth a great effort. I'm going to call it quits. But we pushed each other, and it was definitely a goal that we didn't want to, sit back and say we almost did.
That's right.
I feel good about the fact that we actually made it and kept pushing ourselves. In fact, everybody congratulates you on getting in and running it, but for me, it was thinking and knowing how hard it was and how long it took. It didn't come easy.
That's right.
And I've seen runners that, that go out and spend a year or two and, hey, they run Boston. That wasn't us. We had to work hard to get there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm more proud of that than actually the run itself in Boston.
Yep. And let me tell you what you just said without saying it, but you said it anyways. And that is, it is always about the journey. And it's not always the accomplishment. It is the effort it takes to get the accomplishment. Because like you just said, for some folks, maybe they woke up yesterday and they're like, oh, you know what? I've never ran. Let me go try running. Oh, I can run a 2:20.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in. Okay. Oh, I went and ran. Oh, that was great. I tell my students this all the time. You will never in your life, not for real. You may do it fakingly, but you're not doing it for real, where you have something that you accomplished that took no effort, no planning, no sacrifice, no tenacity, and you're proud of it. That does not exist, not in a real world. It's the things you fight the hardest for. And I always talk about make the thing that you accomplish hardest for you, because what is hard for you may be easy to someone else. But if you're looking at everyone else around you, then you're really never growing. You grow when you challenge yourself, but then you also grow when you face those difficulties, those setbacks, those disappointments, and you don't allow that to be the thing that does define you. And whether you would have been okay with other people saying, well, dang, Danny, we get it. We get it. That sucks, dude. You qualified twice, man. What else could they want? Oh, 2020, they took it from you, man. Nobody is going to look around and say, well, Danny sucks. He didn't try. But Danny's going to look in the mirror and say, did I have anything left in the tank?
Exactly.
Could I have kept going? And whenever you say yes, you need to answer that call, because it will be you that holds yourself accountable. And that, my friends, is the message to you guys out there. This is Motivate with Coach Camp. That's what I do, y'all, because I've lived it. So many times I've seen myself in a position where it's like, man, I can be the victim right now. And everybody around me that knows my situation will be like, yeah, they'll support you. You've done whatever. But I have to ask myself, do I have one more step? Do I have one more minute of my life I could give this and go a little further? Clearly what you've done is incredible. And I can honestly say, because I know where I'm at in my life and where I'm at in my run journey, man, I'm going to have to maintain the speed I'm at now when I'm 95. So I may not have the years in the clock for that. That's okay. And I think that that's also part of the story here, is that every person on this earth isn't meant to be able to do everything. The key is that you push yourself to that point where you know you've been challenged, and then try to go a little further if you can. T.S. Eliot once said, only those who will risk going too far will ever know how far they can go. And I also say that the hottest fires, they create the strongest swords. So you got to put yourself in the heat, man. And whenever you did those things, what you were doing beyond the idea and the scope of challenging Danny to be a better runner, to be able to achieve these life goals, is you were building leadership skills within you that allowed you to also face difficult situations that will come up in real world scenarios, whether it be on a fire or an EMS call, or being in leadership, or having to make budgetary calls. Because I know that's a big part of being a chief of a department, is you're having to figure out where the money's going and who's getting what training and all that stuff. It's a lot of different stresses that the average firefighter may not face. But what we never have the option of in fire service is saying we can't. We always have to try. Even if try looks like a failure, we have to give it everything we have in every scenario that we have. You can't pull up on a wreck, Danny, and be like, man, this sucks, dude. I'm looking at these people tangled up and I don't have a clue. Yeah. Hey, good luck, y'all. Good luck. We pulling for you. And then go get back in the fire truck.
Everybody's looking at you to get it done.
You got to figure it out, right? Yep. So all these skills come into play. Now here you are, climbing the ranks. You were lieutenant. Is there another rank in the Southaven Fire Department before you get to the biggest chief on top of the earth?
So, yeah, I was a lieutenant for about 10 years, and then I was promoted to captain.
Okay.
And I would say when I was probably promoted to captain about the same time that my thought process was to go to Boston and started the marathon journey. I was probably a captain at that point.
Okay.
Worked as a captain for 5 years and then was promoted to deputy chief. Worked there for 2 years and then been the chief since 2018.
In 2018? Wow. So that, man, where did the years go?
Time flies.
Is it 7 years already?
It'll be 8 in January as far as the chief, yeah.
Well, you know, when I say this, I'm blown away by it, but at the same time, I think I've been teaching for almost 10 years.
Wow.
It's already almost been 10 years since I've left Memphis. It's incredible. So then what was if you could give a little bit of the background, because we are going to start to blend now into the chiefing aspect, Southaven Fire Department, all things Southaven Fire. What was the different responsibilities from like lieutenant to captain to deputy chief to where you are now?
Sure. So as a lieutenant for Southaven, in most departments, that's a company officer position. Company officer is in charge of the apparatus they're assigned to, engine company, truck company. So and they'll have 4 personnel, driver, 2 firefighters assigned to them, and their objective is to, as a company officer, is to manage those personnel and be effective on the fire scene at that company officer level. Moving into the captain's role. We had a captain, one for each shift back then, and you're over all the lieutenants. So we have 7 lieutenants on the department with 5 engines and 2 trucks, and you manage them. You're usually the incident commander on major calls. But as I progressed through that, I really love being on engine company, and most firemen do. I mean, you're there hands-on more. Yeah,
the folks that I've known that have went up the ranks of, when you talk to them off to the side, their favorite days were being like lieutenant stuff, being a part of the crew, the actual responding.
It is. And I tell company officers and even our BCs, and if you're a BC, I think you already know it, but I feel like the company officer is probably one of the most key officer positions on the department. I mean, you are
in the trenches,
hands-on, exactly, in the trenches, and you're managing the personnel. Those are the crews that are doing the job of the fire department, and that's one thing that myself and our admin try to keep, in our minds is, hey, we're here to support those that are doing the job. We got to make sure they have what they need to be successful, because if they're not successful, we're not successful, and we're all here to do the same thing. So whether it's the training, knowledge, equipment, whatever they need, we got to make sure they have the tools to do the job. So being a company officer, you're there every day, every step of the way with the men and women that are doing the job, and I think it's real instrumental. As far as having a great department, is having great company officers, and proud to be a part of Southaven. Always have been, and feel like we definitely have a great team. So proud of those company officers, but everyone that's on the department. So I hated, to step away from the company officer. There's a big change when you come off a company for someone that goes up through the ranks. When you go to the battalion commander level, you're no longer riding that fire truck or that aerial. You're riding in a
SUV?
Tahoe. Yeah, exactly. So you take a step back from the hands-on to a great degree.
Sure.
So, but I enjoyed, working and trying to do what I can for my crew as a lieutenant. And one thing that helped me is thinking, hey, I've got a bigger crew now. I've got more people that I can work with and help. It's not just the 4 that are assigned to the company that I'm assigned to. It's, the whole shift. And, it was good. I enjoyed being a battalion commander, a captain level officer, and I'd say I did that for 5 years, and then never really thought, and there was never a point in my career that I thought about, hey, I want to be the chief of the department. And I don't know if anyone actually, goes into the fire service or works in the fire service.
I did.
About that.
I ain't gonna lie to you. My first day on Memphis Fire, I'm like, I'm gonna be running this mug one day. It didn't work out. So, anyways, so and here's what I'm hearing though, as we're getting to the part where you become the deputy chief all the way up to the top guys, is along the way though, you appreciated that you recognized, and I think that this is important, that you, from one rank to the next, you understood the importance, you understood the relevance, and then at the top, you're able to look back and know where the meat and potatoes are of your department. And it is the lieutenant officers that are keeping the guys on the company with morale, keeping their morale up, keeping their training in point. And it's not you. At this point, you are a supportive role, essentially. And I'm putting words in your mouth, but I know that that's how upper management should work.
Yes.
They should be the person that's the advocate for those that are running the show, if you will.
Absolutely. So, it's been, 2 years as a deputy chief, and I talked about that transition from going from a company officer to a captain, and then it's even a bigger transition because not only are you in a different position, but hey, everybody likes working those 24-hour shifts, I think, or most people do.
Most people do once you get used to it, yeah.
You come off of that and go into a typical Monday through Friday, it's a different different role altogether.
Sure it is.
Everything about being a deputy chief or a chief is, I mean, it's an entirely different job than what I was exposed to as a firefighter, driver, lieutenant, and different challenges. But there's a lot of things that I think if you ask anybody in admin, there's a lot of things they miss about being there on company and working in the stations. And for the most part, it's just being there and the camaraderie, working there with the crews. You miss that more than anything.
That's what I miss from the job.
Absolutely.
It's not that the calls weren't exciting, and for a period of time, it was an adrenaline thing for me because I was a young guy. I enjoyed that kind of stuff. But then as you get older, what you realize, especially once you leave the department, and my story, I had to retire in 2016 from injuries.
Yep.
Looking back on that, man, I don't really miss the calls. I don't miss getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning for somebody who's had a snotty nose for 3 days. I do miss the camaraderie you have and being a part of other people's lives every other day, 10 days a month minimum. And, you learn about their families and it is that bond that you get. That's what you end up missing. And that happens on the job when you promote up.
Absolutely. People all the time will say that's a family. Well, that's not just a word. I mean, they're truly a family working there. And if you've worked there and experienced it, you know that.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. All the stuff. And you're happy with them and you're sad with them and all the things that happen. And so then as you come up the ranks, here's one thing that I'm also hearing you say is the fact that knowing your role is not just having a position, but it's knowing your role and understanding that leadership isn't come from a title. It comes from the ability to look out for those that are the ones you're responsible for, to make sure that they are the best version of themselves. And the only way to do that, of course, is to be able to make sure they have the things they need. And that's what I heard you saying. So as you get up to the top rank of chief, let's face it, the stresses are not what any other firefighter or any other police officer, any of those people that work within a department that has tiered system understands until you get there. And the only reason why I know something about it is because I have a lot of friends now that are chiefs because they're older than I am. You guys are all old. I'm sorry. You just are. Y'all just kept going and that's great, but y'all are old now. And so here's what is, man, you're having to deal with all these budgetary issues and the changing and shifting of populations and who's going to staff what piece of equipment whenever you have call outs and stuff. All of these things compound on top of each other. What was that transition like going from being on a more intimate level to now it's the whole department and you've kind of got to think in the way that not always going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Folks aren't always going to love your decision.
Yep.
But it's the best overall decision.
It is, and I definitely can tell that you have some insight on what it's like because you're hitting the nail right on the head. For me, when I transitioned into it, I was a little apprehensive because the responsibilities that I had to the crews and to the personnel of the department, I didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to, do something that, hey, I wanted to know if I'm not the best person for the job, I want the best person for the job to have the job. And so I took it very seriously. It wasn't about the rank. It wasn't about being able to say who I am. But, I'll go into that position and that's what your mindset is. You have to switch between the stressors and the responsibilities of what you had been doing to what they are now and what you have to do now moving forward. But I had a lot of great people that I worked with, people that have done the job before me that did outstanding and taught me. So I carried that with me. It's not like I get in there and I have to really learn the position. So I take that with me. I move forward and I have a great team, and listening to your team carries a lot of weight.
It does.
So,
yeah, if the person that gets into a position of strength where they can now make all the decisions of such, but they forget where they came from and they don't listen to where the problems are coming from. It's just like Undercover Boss. Have you ever seen that show? Undercover Boss,
yes.
Where all of a sudden the big head CEO goes and they work on the lower levels of whatever, and they do the job. They learn a lot about their business all of a sudden. They're up here in the clouds, they totally forget about what's going down on the ground level. And what you just said is so important, is the fact that you recognize what the most important thing is and how to keep them going. But also what I heard you say, and this part here I was going to get to, and you said it, so now I can lead to it, and that is mentorship. Just so folks out there do know, as you rise through the ranks of anything, and it doesn't matter, you could be in a company where you go from a chair to all of a sudden you're a vice president to a president of something. understand this. Every single person, I don't care, even you go to the President of the United States of America, every single person needs mentors. They need people to talk to. They need folks to be able to bounce ideas off of. They need folks that's been there longer, done that longer, and seen the mistakes that maybe you're starting to step into. And you talked about that, about having some great mentors to go to and ask questions about, because the truth is, if we always, and it doesn't matter what capacity I'm speaking on here, if we always think we have to have all the right answers and we only rely on ourselves to have it, we're going to make a lot of mistakes and problems that not at that point no longer just affects you, it affects so many other people. So you got to be a little bit careful. You got to also be selective in the people that you choose. So you want to keep your circle tight and know that you can trust the opinions of those that you have. Mayor Musselwhite was on my show. You familiar with this guy?
I think I've heard of him. Yes.
Maybe heard of him one time, maybe twice. Mayor Musselwhite, man, he sings the praises of his police and fire department within the city of Southaven. You guys have grown immensely since the 90s.
Absolutely.
Southaven is now one of the largest populated cities in the entire state of Mississippi. I don't know where exactly it ranks, but y'all are up there in that top 5, 6, 7. 6'7". I did that. All right, it's fine. No, I'm out of that. Do you know the 6'7" joke?
I've heard that.
I'm sorry. I apologize for throwing it in, but it just kind of failed. So you guys are up there at the top when it comes to population base now, which also plays into the needs for the city. How do you guys, manage putting a new ambulance into service and how much more money that's going to cost the city and stuff? So I want to talk about that real quick, if you could. Sure. I know we're getting kind of deep here. We're almost there, but man, a lot of good questions. Plus, it's always fun catching up with you, sir.
Absolutely. Same here.
That's actually why I pay the bills up here, is I just want to hang out and talk to folks. What are some of the challenges that you saw that the city dealt with when you first came on versus what it changed to today? I'm going to ask a couple big questions like this, comparable type questions, if you will, to kind of get a yin and yang of where the department was and where we are.
So, we talked about the years where we got on at Memphis and, how they run a little ad in the paper and they fill the stadium up with applicants, people interested in being on the department. Mm-hmm. That was the case in Southaven. I remember early years, even after I got on, we'd do the same thing and we'd have, 100 people trying to get in for just a few spots. Mm-hmm. That environment has changed and it's not... It's not Southaven. It's not Memphis. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's not just the fire department. It's the police department. Those government jobs that people used to fight,
coveted for a 30-year career move.
Yes. That's the challenge today, is finding someone who wants to do it. So you see billboards in Memphis where they used to run an ad in the paper. Now they've got a billboard.
They got commercials.
Exactly. They've got recruiting teams that go all over the country.
That's true.
So everyone has to fight harder to find the right personnel. You can get an applicant, but you've done the job. You know that it's not for everyone. True. So to get a good quality applicant, you got to fight harder. You got to look and see what you can do to get those applicants. That's the biggest change, I think, since when I got into the fire service to what we're seeing now. Yeah, is qualified recruits.
Having the people that want to come in because it's a heartfelt desire that they've longed for and they fought hard for to try to get into versus, man, maybe I'll try that. Yep. And plus, that's another part. So maybe Southaven's having the same kind of problems that Memphis and surrounding areas are, maybe or not. But I know that attrition is way up from what it used to be. The average length of a firefighter paramedic in Memphis is around 5 to 6 years. Yeah. Do y'all have a lot of attrition down in Southaven?
We do. We don't have the same call volume, and I would say that that's probably the stressors of the job from doing the job, from watching others do the job. I think riding that ambulance is a different stress level than riding the fire truck.
Sure.
And you've done both. You can disagree with me if you think that's inaccurate.
No, I think that it's the call volume. It's not necessarily the acuity of the call, because you're going to have very serious life and death type stuff on an ambulance like you would on a fire truck. Mm-hmm. But it is the amount of. Yep. So whereas if you're just on a fire company only, maybe in a 3-day set in Memphis, not running first responder calls, you're going to run about 8 to 10 calls. Mm-hmm. Where you're going to run 8 to 10 calls maybe by dinner time on an ambulance in Memphis. So it is definitely the call volume.
The burnout is higher if you're assigned to that. And so we see some of that. We've seen... Over the last 5 years, we've seen people get out of the profession altogether and go do something else.
I have too, yeah.
So typically, when I first got on, if someone left before retirement, they were going to do the job somewhere else. Mm-hmm. We used to lose people to Memphis, where that's flipped more to we have more people applying for that are on Memphis Fire with us than we have going to Memphis.
You're right.
And, why is that? Is the big question. And
I know the reason.
Call volume is one of them.
Call volume is a big part. The second part is you are paying more comparable. Because do you make I don't know if you remember. Do you remember what y'all were paying back in the mid to late 90s for a firefighter paramedic? It's okay if you don't.
I don't. I could probably ballpark it, but you got that number. I
do. The only reason I know is because it was the most money I had ever made in my life whenever I got hired by Southaven. $28,000 a year.
Wow.
$28,000 a year. I was making bank, boys. I was making bank at 28 grand. And
I've hit the mid league.
I know, right? And then here comes Memphis offering, after your first 6-month probationary period, you immediately get to 40. And I'm like, whoa. 40,000, I'll probably be rich. All I gotta do is go work like 3 years, I can retire. So I literally, that was the draw, was leaving Southaven to go there, because it was such a massive pay jump. And at that time, they were understaffed by their medics drastically. They had lost a bunch and had not hired new ones, and it was not a requirement. So back then, you did not have to have your paramedic to be hired. It was just bonus if you did. So as paramedics left, suddenly your call volume went up in the sense of not only were you working your shifts, but now you 24 to 36 hours of overtime every 4 days, as much as you wanted. And I'm a young cat, so I'm taking all of it, and I'm getting beat down. But now all of a sudden I'm making 80, 90,000 a year. That is break bank money when you've only made 20 and 25,000 most of your life. So now you guys have a switch. Memphis fire paramedics start out around 72. Where's Southaven?
Fire paramedic, you're in your 60s. Now, we have a different pay scale. We have the single role medic that rides the ambulance, and they're starting out at 79.
79? Yep. Hang on, time out. So that's single role.
Yeah, we have a single role
But
medic.
if you're a fire paramedic, you make less?
You can, if you're a fire paramedic, I know that's hey, how's that work?
I know.
Well, if you're a firefighter paramedic and you want to ride that ambulance 90% of the time, we'll transition you to the paramedic role. But you got to ride that ambulance 90% of the time.
I got you.
Nobody wants to do that. There's two reasons why we paid more for that ambulance, that single role medic. One, the call volume we talked about. Two is, if you're a firefighter medic, you have more, with Southaven, you have more of opportunity for advancement. Just like
that's the same thing in Memphis.
Yep. So, but if you're a single role, we have paramedic 1, paramedic 2, shift lieutenants or EMS shift lieutenants, and then the EMS coordinator is a captain position. So there's a very limited opportunity for advancement. Not as
many spots.
So you got to think about, hey, we're going to hire someone as a paramedic, and we want them to spend a career here, but chances are they're not going to have a whole lot of room for advancement. We can't just sort them out at the same thing that we have all these others that are able to promote up to and keep them motivated.
I love this conversation because this also allows you to have an opportunity to kind of explain some things to folks. So if you were both, you had your fire 1 and 2 and all the other things that are required for you guys, and I don't know what all the requirements are anymore. It's been a while, but so if you have those things and you're a paramedic and you agree to go to the paramedic side of things 90% of the time, could you still promote on the fire side of things? Could you take those tests?
Well, we haven't gone. This is fairly new for us, and we haven't had anyone that has promoted over to I want to just be a paramedic. I forget being a firefighter and going up through those ranks. I just want to be a paramedic full time. Well, for each promotion step that we have, there are certain requirements you have to meet. So if you transition to a paramedic and you come off of your firefighter status, you become ineligible for your next promotion unless you transition back to the fire side and work in that position. And there's certain classes you have to have for certain positions on the department. There's certain time and position that you have to have. So if you lose that time and position, you have to go back and put that back in.
So in some ways, it's a roll of a dice. You have to be fairly confident in your ability to promote. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure it's pretty standard across the board, there's a process of longevity, how long you've been on a job, how long you've done certain aspects of the job, what different certifications you've gotten within the job, and then also the ability to test, because most places require a written test, and a lot of places require like a video test where you're sizing up a scene and you're doing
we do that
back and forth. So
officers,
So a lot of people have those types of testing in place, and if you're not confident that you can do that, maybe just stay on the ambulance side. You're gonna make a lot of money down the road. But that's kind of the same concept in Memphis, in the fact that you could be fire EMS and you can promote independently, because we have lieutenant positions on, obviously, and all the way up to chief and so on the EMS, and there's a lot more positions on the fire side. Fun fact. I love having fun facts. I'm throwing it in there, guys. If y'all are tired of my fun facts, Sorry. When I first got on Memphis, we had no lieutenants in the field, no EMS lieutenants. We had no EMS chiefs. We had no EMS direction. We had nothing. We had fire chiefs. We had fire lieutenants that they didn't even have to have their EMT basic to be in those positions at that time. So literally, if we're on the scene and have a problem, you know what I did? I called like one of my buddies that's been on 3 or 4 years. I'm like, hey man, this is what we're doing on scene. What do you think we should do right now? I mean, that's what we had. Our medical direction, even though we had a quote medical director, you didn't call them, you call the hospital and ask questions. Right. Called your buddy to see what they would do in a situation like that. Come a long ways. It was the Wild West back in those days. So, all right. So back on point here, Southaven. That's some really good information there, Chief Scallions. Thank you for all that stuff. Where do you see the fire department going in the next 5 to 10 years? Because obviously we've already spoken about being a leader is also about being a visionary, seeing what the path ahead needs and then how to direct that. And I'll even give you a biscuit. Does AI play into that future?
I would say so. I mean, it seems like that's going to play a big role in everything as we see moving forward, not just the fire service. And what's interesting is the challenges that we face in Southaven is no different than the challenges that Memphis department faces. It's no different than what other departments in DeSoto County. And you can go to a conference, across the country and talk to firemen from anywhere, and it's almost like they're sitting, on your department telling you something that you've heard yesterday. So it's the same challenges. And what we talked about earlier about, hey, 80% of your call volume is EMS. So we have seen a huge transition, about, hey, what are the requirements to be a firefighter? It used to be you get your EMR. Now Memphis requires you to have your paramedic. We require EMT, but we also hire the single role medic because we have a lot of great medics that I don't want anything to do with the fire side. Well, hey, they are great paramedics and that's valid. That position.
That's valid. Memphis actually has single role now.
I've heard that.
Not a lot of units, but a few single role units. So, and that makes perfect sense. I've known some great paramedics. You don't want them on a fire.
Right.
I've known some great firemen. You don't want them on an ambulance as a paramedic.
Exactly. Yep.
It's not both roles don't mean that there are some things and some people, one side of it, they're fantastic. Keep them away from the other. That's just the way it is. And that ain't a knock on anybody.
Yep.
So,
people are more productive if they're doing what they want to do.
Amen.
And maybe getting off topic a little bit.
No, you're on point.
But, we created some EMS driver roles because what's the last thing you want a firefighter, what's he want to do? He wants to ride a fire truck. He doesn't want to drive that ambulance.
True.
So we created an EMS driver role, and that EMS driver role, their job is to come in and drive the ambulance. They have a 2-year period where they have to get their paramedic. So we'll hire you. We'll send you the paramedic school, and then we're trying to, raise our own paramedics. And at the same time, we're putting people in positions that they want to be in and putting our firefighters back on the fire trucks for the most part. So since we've started that position, we have a lot more firefighters that are on the fire trucks that used to be on the ambulance. So they're doing what they want to do. So, you talk about, hey, where's the next 5 years for a fire service look like? It's steps like that as we have more difficulties in recruiting is putting people where they truly want to work and being able to reach out and see what the future challenges are going to be in recruiting. So, working with our high schools and putting it out there. Nursing has, hosted, they used to do that. They've done that for a long time and are real good about opening high school students up to, hey, this is what nursing is all about and exposing them to it. So we've partnered with the DeSoto County schools and trying to do that with, paramedics and even getting in the schools and talking about, hey, have you thought about being a firefighter? That's where we're at today versus that. Let's throw a 2-line advertisement in the commercial appeal and fill up the stadium for applicants. So you got to be proactive, and we've got a great team that are working to connect. We've had paramedics on our department that we were exposed to, and they were exposed to us when they were still in high school going through this program, and they are outstanding paramedics with us today. So that is one of the things, and then just it's going to be always going to be a challenge.
It's always going to evolve.
Yep.
Things are always evolve.
One thing that I've seen differently, and in this, we talk about fire department, but in emergency services, police departments, they went through a phase where people, were down on police officers from things they've seen in the news, but
sure.
You kind of feel like that's happened a little bit on all scales, even fire and EMS. It's the public didn't, in certain areas of the country, doesn't support them as they used to. Well,
right.
I will say in Southaven, we are well supported by our community, and that's important. We've been well supported by the mayor and the board. We've been well supported by the community, and if you go out in the public, there's hardly a day goes by that I don't hear somebody say, "Hey, thank you for what you do." So that means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know still a ton of folks that work for Southaven Fire Department that are good friends of mine still to this day. And I would be remiss if I didn't send a shout out to my guy, R.I.P. Skeeter. You talk about those ambulance drivers. Skeeter was legendary. I know anybody watching right now that's from Southaven has been on the fire department. One of my favorites. Rode with him several times at Station 2 down there on Greenbrook Parkway.
He was one of a kind.
He was one of a kind, always fun, always entertaining, super nice guy. Mm-hmm. Well, Chief Scallions, here's what I can tell you, man. I think Southaven's in a great position. You have some great leadership there, and like you've already said, you're well supported by those that are a part of the city, all the way up to the mayor, which is absolutely true because he spoke very highly of you guys. And I'm excited to see where you guys continue to go. Last piece here, two things. One, how much longer down the road do you see Chief Scallions riding the pony?
That's a popular question, I would say. So, obviously, I've been doing it a while, so you would think, hey, it's got to be getting close. And I will say that is getting close, but I have taken no steps to go, it's not going to be this year. I've taken no steps to find out, hey, what's it mean for me retirement-wise if I go? But and accepting a position within the ranks of chief, for me, and I think it's for most people, you got to know that, hey, at some point you got to be able to transition the department before you leave. And we've got a great team. I feel like that, I can step away tomorrow and the department will be, they don't need Danny Scallions to be successful. And I've always felt that way. Hey, once I'm gone, Southaven Fire Department will be great and continue to be great. And I'm proud for those, not just those that are about to enter a chief's role, but those that have been on and, hey, they're going to be a lieutenant here in the next few years, or they're going to be a promote up to driver. I'm excited to see that. And
that's the next that's the next generation. That's what you want to do, see people go on the next level. That's how you pass the generations on. Leaving a great legacy behind is something that you're doing, sir. I got to tell you something, man. You're the type of person you are, and your personality and your characteristics. I say this wholeheartedly and sincerely, and I've known you for over 20 years, sir. We would all be so lucky as if every leader had that type of mentality. It's not about you. It's about your team. It's about building a great team. And then it's about leaving a great team behind to follow in your footsteps, to build it bigger and better than you were. That's always the goal. I have a great suggestion. When you're done, you hang up your turnouts for the final time. But you've got it now. Come become a professional podcaster. You've got this thing, man. Slam.
I feel like a pro
dunk.
Right now.
You've knocked it out of the park, sir. All right. Well, like I told you at the beginning, I want to leave the last minute or so to you. Any thoughts, concerns, comments, words of wisdom that Chief Danny Scallions wants to leave with the world right now? Somebody in Ireland is listening to this. They have the translate button on because we speak country and they speak Irish, which is still English, but it's a tough way to learn. So throw it at them, sir.
Well, that's a tough one. I will say, I guess one of the questions I get is we'll have someone call up and say, hey, what do I need to do to be a firefighter? Or what are the steps I need to take? And, if they have no experience, if they haven't ever done the job, a lot of the applicants that we get, they're working somewhere else or they've been a volunteer somewhere. One of the things I would suggest to them is, and it's for a couple of reasons, I say, go be a volunteer somewhere. And if you're living in an area that they don't have volunteers, you don't have to. There are certain departments that have duty crews where you can just go and you don't have to live close by so you can respond to calls. You can go and be a part of that. I know you're familiar with that, with WALS and other volunteer departments. It serves two purposes. One, as we said earlier, this job isn't for everyone. And that enables them to be exposed to the job so that they know early on if that's something they want to do for a career. And another part is, just like we talked about, where recruiting is difficult and you're paying people. Well, think about volunteers. Volunteer departments are struggling. So, it gives them an opportunity to up their staffing. So that would be one thing. We talked about our call volume as EMS. Get your EMT. Anyone can go and get their EMT. That puts a feather in your hat when it comes to when we're looking through applications and this person has an EMT and this person, they don't seem like and have volunteered. And this application shows that they've never worked in the field. I've got to wonder, are they sure this is what they want to do? Where this person has been exposed to it, they've gotten their EMT and they're applying. That tells me they want to be a part of the profession. So I would say for those who are looking to get in the fire service, take those steps. For those that are in the profession, especially those that are early on, you talked about it a little bit earlier, learning all the different trades. And for the general public, you think about the fire service, they put out fires. Well, there's a lot more steps.
Lot more.
Yep. You've got to be able to do that. You got to be able to do EMS. Hazmat call comes in, guess who they're calling? Someone gets in a wreck and tangled up like we talked about, you got to go extricate them. But there's rope rescues, there's confined space rescues, trench rescues. Yeah. So there's a whole list of things that you can learn. But then once you learn it, guess what? You got to maintain proficiency. So training and education isn't something you do your first year on the job. You have to do that throughout your career and stay proficient, just like being able to do the job physically. You can't pass the minimum requirement to get onto the job and just say, okay, I made it. I don't have to do anything from here on out. Well, guess what? That structure fire you go on an hour from now is going to require the same thing that structure fire you go on 20 years from now is going to require of you. That's right. So you got to be able to not only keep your mind and skill set up, you got to be able to maintain a good physical ability to do the job, and it creates a safer environment. Those who are in better shape physically are, create a stronger team all the way around. So that would be my 2 cents and 1 minute worth.
I love it, man. And you're absolutely right. Think about it like a professional athlete. You don't make the big leagues and be like, you know what? I've caught a lot of ground balls. I think I'm good. Every day you're getting back out there. You're taking your reps. You're taking your swings. You're always preparing. And the bottom line is, even after you're past those years of actually physically doing the job, once you've built that wisdom, that is where leadership is needed. You need to step into that next role so you can pass on all of those traits and all those skills and experience. I always like to use this analogy, and we'll wrap on this, is it's like a grandmother that knows how to cook some amazing meals. But if she doesn't pass on those recipes, they die with her. Yep, so that's where we are as you get older. Hopefully you've got a lot of wisdom now. You've been through a lot of stuff, and you can share that with the next folks coming up so the next generation doesn't have to make the same mistakes, and they can be bigger, better, faster, all of the above.
Absolutely.
Danny, thank you so much, sir. It's always great to catch up with my friends, man. I told you this was easy. He was a little nervous. I'm like, don't be nervous, man. We just talking, and I know how to talk. So we're going to do this thing. Well, Chief, good luck to you. I will stay in touch with you. I'm looking forward to your next runs. Do you have one coming up?
Nothing scheduled.
Nothing scheduled. All right. Well, I've got one tentatively scheduled for April.
Where's that?
Jersey City. I'm going to go up to Jersey, and then we're going to see a Yankees game because that's the number one team in Major League Baseball. Or not. I don't know. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. I love you guys, man. Please continue to do that. I'm asking you now. Please do this. Go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Subscribe to my YouTube. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time